You're listening to Captain John Doe, real aviation stories told anonymously. Let's get into it.
All right, episode 1. We're actually doing this.
I'm so excited. Welcome to Captain John Doe, the brand new podcast where we're telling anonymous stories. And it can be anything. It can be from the cockpit. It can be from a passenger point of view. It could be you're sitting at the airport or FBO and saw this crazy thing happen. There's a lot of different types of stories. So it's not just flying stories. It's a little bit of everything.
Quick disclaimer. We don't write these. We don't fact check these.
Nope.
We just read them and we talk about it.
Yep. So, yeah, we don't have a fact checking team yet. We don't got a Jamie over here yet. All right. Story number 1 is from a military flight. The title of this story, this is from Reddit, is Story Time. First military PIC flight, an APU fire, and a flight violation. Setting the stage pretty good. All right. Here it is.
The big whammy.
So no BS, there I was. First flight in the UH-60M Blackhawk as pilot in command. I'd been pushing hard over the past years to make PIC quickly. Finally got the go at 300 hours in, had a couple of insane check rides filled with real-world issues, plenty of curveballs from my instructors. So with one of my best friends up front besides me and my favorite crew chief in the back, we were off on a simple VFR flight to go grab a $100 hamburger. So it sounds like they were doing a little celebration flight. We got our food, jumped back into the aircraft, and then taxied away from the FBO ramp. As we rolled onto the taxiway, my PI, equivalent to a first officer, announced it. We have an APU fire. I had about 1 to 2 seconds worth of, no, we don't, there's no way. Disbelief is a common initial reaction to emergencies. That was short-lived, as I saw both my APU master caution and APU fire T-handle were illuminated. Within 3 to 5 seconds, the light extinguished, leaving an uncomfortable doubt. Were we actually on fire? My crew chief, knowing exactly what to do without being told, had immediately unbuckled when we announced the fire. He peered out the clamshell door. Sir, we have a ton of fuel on the ground. Well, crap. No good news there. I told my PI to get us back onto the ramp. He popped up off the taxiway, executed a hasty 180-degree turn around the tail, and we re-landed at the edge of the ramp, crooked as all hell. F the parking job, just get her down. We got our crew chief and his 0-hour trainee clear the aircraft, which also gave them better view of the APU compartment. No fire, smoke, or indication, sir. With this news, I consciously told myself to slow down, think through our next course of action. Our only checklist procedure for APU fire is to fight it with a built-in extinguisher bottle. But was it an APU fire? I had no further indications of a fire, but I was leery of the fuel that we dumped onto the taxiway. I decided to shut down the aircraft without the APU. Not codified in the checklist, but a logical choice. Why introduce fuel into a suspected fire? We shut down fully, started making some phone calls, inspected the APU compartment. We had evidence of a flash fire, but it was questionable. The compartment appeared sooty and far dirtier than normal, but we had no melting of seals or any type of fire damage. After talks with our maintenance pilots and a few hours working on the bird, we were instructed to launch back to our home airfield. I briefed the courses of actions for our run-ups and, more importantly, what we would do if the fire returned in flight. We flew back without any issues. Or so I thought, at least. Upon arrival into our Class Delta airspace, my tower gave me landing instructions that were unusual and would prolong our return to parking. Tower, if able, I'd like to stay with you and expedite return to parking. We're not declaring an emergency, but had a suspected fire and would like to expedite. She clears me for what I asked for and then says the dreaded words, I have a number for you to call after you land. I was bewildered. We put our heads together and couldn't come up with what we had done wrong. My crew chief thought maybe it was a precautionary safety report, but these hopes were dashed. She gave me the number and confirms my fears. Sir, it's the FAA. We're not sure what it's about. I notify my chain of command and take a breath and I call. At the end of a lengthy call with the FAA, I found out what my mistake was. There was none. No pilot deviation, no busting of airspace. It was an elaborate hoax by one of my instructors. Did you see it going that way?
No.
Our tower gleefully played along. The number was for a landline on which my instructor gave an Oscar-worthy impression of an upset FAA employee. Thankfully, I remained composed through the entire call, but when the gig was up, we were all laughing our butt off. That they would pull this on me given the prior events of the day was pure savagery. It was a day of days that ultimately proved an invaluable learning experience. Edit. Detail added for context, we discovered that the fuel spotted by our crew chief was actually ECS condensation. So basically, that's the end of the story. When I read this for the first time, I did not think it was going there.
No, you're talking about an emergency here and all these checks that a 300-hour pilot is going through. And my brain's like, this is a lot. Like, would I even know what to do at that point in my career? And then you hit me with the Brasher one.
Yeah.
The dreaded Brasher one. Yeah. Which no pilot.
Well, I thought when I read the number of the phone call, I thought it was ATC declaring an emergency for him. Because you know how controllers can do that. You know that. You were a controller.
Of course.
So I thought that that's what the number was, saying like, hey, we declared an emergency for you. We're going to need more information.
Yeah. Well, he said we've had a possible fire. Like, duh, you're going to need to call FAA.
Yeah. So it sounds like from the story that the APU part was real, like that really happened because those lights illuminated. They actually did have an APU problem, but the tower and a fake FAA call was kind of a planned prank. And it just so happened to be on that same day of the APU thing.
Yeah. That makes me think about, do you remember when we were in Orlando when we were flying and one of my coworkers might have gave us a Brasher?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's on video.
That is on video. And we try not to make those jokes. I'm not with the FAA anymore, so I don't have a problem sharing this anonymous story.
Not anonymous anymore.
But I've given out a couple Brasher warnings that were jokes.
No.
Yes.
I mean,
maybe one to my CFI that taught me my instrument and commercial rating.
Oh, that's hilarious. Well,
for my sake, he did ask if he had permission to go into Bravo, and he was on an instrument flight plan, so he deserved it.
So, okay, back to the story. Funny or not funny?
It was like a real story with a really big twist at the end, and I really appreciate that kind of humor, especially with a new pilot.
You
probably
think that's funny?
Of course, it's funny.
I think it's funny to read. If someone did that to me, I would be.
It's casual hazing that they did in the military to this guy, and this is older too. Like those guys when they went home and got food and all chatted, they probably laughed about that for weeks, saying we got this new guy, this 300-hour guy. Freshly minted PIC, and we scare the crap out of them.
Animals. Straight up animals. Yeah, you're right. But I think that is military-esque.
I love it.
But yeah, just putting that all together. First PIC flight, 300 hours in, military Black Hawk, a real APU fire scare, and then they do that.
I would say the only thing, I hope ATC gave them the number once they land. Because he's really thinking he's going through a bad emergency right now.
Yeah.
So that casual.
That's where it's not funny. Okay, no, it's still funny. Never mind. I was going to say it's not funny because he thought he had a potential emergency, but that part was real. I keep forgetting that they didn't stage the APU part.
So I'd say at the end of it, it's funny.
All right. Next story. You're up, Mr. Kevin.
All right. So I was looking into some funny, not really funny CFI stories, but like students that cause a headache. You know, as a CFI, you know that your job is to just stay alive and teach the best way you can. So this story, it starts with, he had a new student come into the school. He already had his PPL and wanted to work on his commercial pilot license. I thought it was great. Let's get you checked out quick and get you time building. We go do some air work, and and he won't climb above 3,000 feet. I then find out if he's afraid of heights. Actually, he is afraid of heights. We do some air work, but because he won't go higher to do the rest, then I can't check him out. I talked to my chief pilot about it, and we come up with a plan to do some instrument in the meantime. And he can solo in a circuit to build confidence. I eventually get him up higher, but he's panicking. We do a stall that turns into a spin. He locks it in on the controls. He's much bigger than me, and we're stuck in the spin. I have to punch him hard in the chest to get him to let go. I then fly us back, and we have a long talk on the ground how this really isn't for him as a career or in general reality. He quietly agrees. The guy shows up the next day and asks to start working on his multi. I convince him not to start. This whole time he's putting the flights on several different credit cards and definitely can't afford it. I'll never forget this guy.
Okay, that's hilarious. Back to punching in the chest. I'm wondering what I would do. I fly with a lot of people. I don't instruct a lot anymore, but I used to. And it did cross my mind that I'm flying with dudes that are much bigger than me. If they lock up on the controls, like, what am I going to do? And punching them in the face was certainly at the top of my list.
For you, 100%. Like I was reading something the other day about like how military instructor pilots get their guys out of that tunnel vision. Because that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
You get locked in that tunnel vision.
Yeah.
And just touching somebody, it puts that in your brain and it says like something's going on. It can distract them just long enough to release that grip.
So you can do a light tap instead of a full-on punch.
I think a full punch to the jugular might be the best move if someone's putting me into a full spin. But a light tap sometimes is all of them.
So you're instructing right now. Has someone locked up on you yet?
No, but someone has put me in a spin already, which at the time was a little bit ridiculous because all that was going through my head was my DPE telling me when he was asking about spins is that your student's going to do this to you. I'm like, no way. And as we're spinning towards the ground, I have a little smile perk up on my face. I'm like, this is really happening right now. And then the training kicked in and it was a non-issue.
What type of plane was this?
It was thankfully a Skyhawk.
Okay.
Because if it was in the Cirrus, we would have been a little different. But it was in the Skyhawk.
Get out of it.
And so I know firsthand that this is real. And this student is not abnormal. Those conversations to have are tough. I'm on the mindset that
what conversation?
To where they can't do it.
Where you've had a conversation with someone before where you said that you're not cut out to be a pilot.
I've never had that conversation.
Would you?
I don't know if I would specifically do that because if they were willing to put the work in, I would continue with them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't endorse them.
Do you think that anyone is teachable, or do you think some people are just unteachable?
Everyone in theory is teachable, but they gotta put something. There's a give and take. I tell everybody I work with, I can't be in that check ride with you. Can't fly that plane. I can't do the oral.
Yeah, but do you think anyone willing to put the work in, like you said, can get to a point of being a safe, competent pilot?
They might not be a commercially rated pilot, but they should be able to fly a plane by themselves. If what you just said, they put that work in, they dedicate it, and they have that lack of ego, but they build that confidence up. There's a fine line because what stood out to me is this guy already had his private pilot. And I see that almost always is worse than a fresh student. Someone that took off 20 years that wants to go get into a high performance airplane that already has all this background and they've been flying, for 20 years, but that was so long ago. Those are typically their most dangerous students. And those are the ones that are hard to convince that this isn't working right now.
Yeah. I'm just thinking back to when I used to do demo flights. I don't think I ever flew with someone. I definitely have never sold to someone where I thought that they were not capable of flying the plane or doing that. But I'm not gonna lie, I come across a lot of people in the real world. I'm like, you could never fly a plane. However, those people aren't trying. So it's weird if you get someone who like doesn't have, quote, the right stuff. You know what they say about pilots? Usually people that have the right stuff kind of know it and they're attracted to things like flying airplanes, right?
Yeah.
People that are not usually aren't trying to go do that because that's not their style and their personality.
So I think the question that I'll ask you, would you ever tell somebody that this isn't for them?
I don't think I could, because you're just one instructor. You're one piece of the pie, right? You hear all these success stories of these, multi-million-dollar CEOs or these famous celebrities that got told that they don't have the right stuff. And now they are signing checks for that person that said that they don't have the right stuff. So I don't think one person gets to have the opinion that you have it or not. So I don't think I could ever say that to someone. I could never crush someone's dreams, but maybe I would say, hey, me and you are not compatible to getting you to where you need to be. So I think, I'm not saying this is the end of the road for you, but I'm saying it's the end of the road for us. Not you, it's me.
Oh, let me down easy.
Yeah, isn't that cute?
Yeah.
I would recommend them to go fly with another instructor. And maybe if they were told by multiple instructors that they weren't making progress, they would come to that conclusion on their own. But I think it's really hard to kill somebody's dream.
I agree. Let me ask you one little last one. Do you think that if you have a student that has all the confidence and the ego in the world, think that this is working, but you know that they're not ready to pass a check ride, would you send them there as a point?
I'm smiling because I feel like I know who you're talking about.
We don't name names. It's anonymous.
It's suddenly not enough. Okay. I have heard of other instructors using that tactic of they teach, and this student's like, I got it. I know it. I'm ready. And then they finally, even though they don't think they're ready, send them the check ride, because it's kind of like, fine, man, you think you know it? Go show me that you know it all. But here's the risk of doing that. What if they pass?
Oh.
Isn't that scary? What if someone that you sent for check ride that you genuinely in your heart think is not ready for check ride and they pass? You might be putting their life at risk.
They had a lucky day somehow.
Yeah. Or the DPE was a super easy one or something. There's different variables that go into that. And you put someone up in the air with a license that you genuinely don't think should. And now they're out and they're licensed and they're running planes and they're flying by themselves. Like, how terrible would you feel if something happened to them and you only sent them the check ride because you're proving a point?
I think you just solidified my thought.
Were you on the fence before?
Not going to do that. You're right.
Were you thinking about using that tactic?
Well, I've heard of it and I didn't understand it. And I was thinking about it more. And sometimes you got to let someone go. But the point you just made is no.
Here's where I would use that tactic. I would use that tactic at a stage check or an internal check ride stage check. Hey, all right, if you think you're ready, you need to prove to chief pilot that you're ready. So we're going to do a mock check ride. Everything's going to feel and look real. And you're going to go up with chief pilot. And if you get his endorsement, then I'm good with it.
I love it.
I would do that.
That makes a lot of sense.
All right. Next story. How about we shift to a passenger story?
Oh. What type of passenger?
There is a thread on Reddit called "Am I the A-hole?"
You are.
That's weird. I am subbing the real word in case you have kiddos around. We're trying to take all the curse words out, which there's a lot of cuss words on Reddit. I don't know if y'all ever been there. It's pretty dark. So AITA, am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for telling a doctor to shut up on a turbulent flight? So I'm going to read it And then the funny thing about this thread is people do vote if they're the a-hole or not. So me and you are going to vote afterwards.
My answer is yes.
Shut up, Kevin. Okay.
See, I told you so. A-hole.
Okay. I, 30-year-old male, was on a flight from Atlanta to LAX last night. Packed flight, everyone just trying to get some sleep. About 2 hours in, the lights come on and an announcement crackles through the intercom. Turbulence ahead, fasten seatbelts. Pretty standard stuff. Then all heck breaks loose. This woman, maybe in her late 40s, impeccably dressed, starts freaking out, screaming about air pockets, demanding to speak to the pilot, the whole 9 yards. The flight attendant, a super patient lady, bless her, tries to calm her down, explains its standard procedure, turbulence is normal. Nope, not having it. This lady, who we'll name Jane, we love a Jane Doe.
Captain Jane Doe.
This lady, who we'll name Jane, throws a fit. Not the screeching, nails on a chalkboard kind, but a cold, steely fury. She accuses the flight attendant of lying, of putting everyone in danger, and demands to be deplaned immediately. The flight attendant says that's not possible mid-flight. And Jane launches into this whole spiel about how she's a doctor, and she pulls out her ID to prove it. And if something happens, it's on the airline. Now the rest of the plane's awake. People are grumbling. Some people are looking scared. A baby starts crying. The flight attendant is trying to reason with Jane, but it's like talking to a brick wall. Finally, I just lose it. I yell out, probably a little too loudly, "Look, lady, we all get turbulence. It's not a 5-star resort, but it's safe. Sit down and shut up before you get yourself arrested." Everyone stares at me. Jane spins around, eyes blazing, and she starts in on me about disrespecting a medical professional. I fire back that a real doctor wouldn't be causing a scene and freaking everyone out. The flight attendant dives in, trying to mediate, but the damage is done. We hit more turbulence, not terrible, but enough to jostle the plane. Jane freaks out again. Some people start getting panicky. I feel awful. Maybe I made things worse. The flight attendant gives me a look that could curdle milk, but then steers Jane away to talk to her privately. By the time we land, things are calmer, but the tension is so thick. Jane gives me a withering look as she disembarks, and a few people mutter thanks under their breath. So, am I the a-hole? Did I just escalate a bad situation, or was I right to shut down a meltdown that was putting other passengers on edge? I'm honestly not sure.
Well, me and you both just keep to ourselves on their airliner, don't we?
Yeah. Oh, I would never say anything.
Never.
I would never say anything.
Never. Like, part of me says, go for it, buddy. Tell Dr. Jane that she's being an a-hole. But part of me...
Hold on, quick comment. Do you think Jane was really a doctor?
Probably.
Well, yeah, you're probably right. Well, you know some crazy doctors.
Well, you do, don't we?
Yeah.
But I think that obviously the flight attendant's job is to mediate that.
Exactly. So do you think passengers should step in when the flight attendant kind of needs backup, or do you think it's not their opinion to tell when
there's definitely a point that people should step in? I mean, we've seen incidents like that.
When it's physical, right?
Yeah.
This wasn't physical. This was just...
This is someone having a panic attack on the plane. And that's something that's really hard to deal with. And yelling at somebody, unfortunately, even though I don't disagree with this guy, is never going to probably solve the problem. He's not the asshole, but probably could have handled it differently just because of her reaction. Or you just get the zip ties, tie her up with some duct tape, and bring her out the back. That's what United likes to do, right?
Not necessarily. No. Not necessarily. I think it's hilarious that she asked to be deplaned mid-flight. That's not the first time I've read or heard something like that, where people say they want immediately off the plane. It's like, did you look outside the window?
There's got to be one parachute in there, right? You're on some deplane.
Okay, I'm going to read a comment or two and just see what the consensus is. Someone says, you are the a-hole, but unknowingly. The crew are trained to handle these sorts of situations, and you and your frustration escalated it. I fly a lot. I'm also a very big guy who looks like he can handle himself. There's kind of an unwritten rule that if there's an aggressive passenger, I sit down but pay attention. I don't jump in. I don't risk making things worse in an attempt to fix the issue. Sit down, shut up, And if the crew needs help, they're going to ask. Did you ever watch or play netball? Unlike a lot of sports where players will call for the ball, open players in netball say, here if you need. Or imagine if going to the supermarket, you see someone with a pallet stocking shelves. You don't just start grabbing stuff and putting it on the shelf saying, I'm just trying to help. You let the professional handle it.
I think that's what I kind of was saying. I like that. He's there if needed. And passengers should be like that. There if needed.
One more comment I'll read. Someone says, just my 2 cents. I'm an in-charge flight attendant, and a couple of weeks ago, we had a disruptive passenger. We had to go back to the gate for a maintenance issue and got delayed by about an hour. A man started cussing and yelling at everyone. When I went to see him, he started acting like he did nothing and that I was mistaken. It wasn't him, and my flight attendant was being dramatic. Another man cut me off and told him off for me. He told him pretty much everything I had to tell him, which is behave or get off the aircraft. It's sad to say, but when it was coming from me, the disruptive man was playing games. But when he was told off by this bigger military man, he shut up and behaved the whole flight. Not a sound came out of his mouth. I obviously don't want other passengers to always get involved, but I was so grateful because it cut the BS immediately. I honestly didn't get the vibe he would have listened, and having to wait for security to kick him off would have taken so much longer. I'm not saying to always get involved, but I would have not had that situation de-escalated without having that man get involved. That's an interesting point. Obviously, most flight attendants are female. And when you have big dudes on the plane disrupting, this kind of even goes to what we're talking about with overpowering a student pilot. Sometimes you need another bigger person, another bigger dude to shut it down, right?
Stand by and ask for help.
Like you said, just even having like a big dude sitting there, just like making eyes with the flight attendant, just like silently saying, here if you need me. That was huge.
Which I think will happen.
Yeah.
Because we're collectively on this tube in the air going 600 miles an hour. I think people, for the most part, want it to be chill. And if somebody gets disruptive, especially after what happened, on 9/11, people are going to jump in. And that's where the flight attendant's job is to know when to ask for help.
Yeah, people are so panicky on planes. It just like in the airport, people are so frantic. I wonder if people are that scared of flying, or if it's the pressure of the departure time you can't miss. And it's the pressure of being around strangers and being in a crowd and flying and all these things together. I think people just get into mass hysteria.
Yeah, we talk about this, like me and you fly all the time. Most people fly in an airplane once a year or once ever.
It's a big deal.
That's the norm. One time,
they freak out.
Maybe once a year for a family trip. And that is a lot of pressure and stress.
My sister-in-law asked me if she can bring deodorant in her carry-on.
No. She has to smell the whole time.
I was like, yeah, Corey, you bring deodorant. You good? She goes, can I bring snacks?
No, not allowed to eat.
I was like, yeah.
You're in a survival movie.
I was like, you literally just can't bring big liquids. And if you do, they go on your check.
Like tequila.
It's funny because me and you fly all the time. So this is like secondhand knowledge. Like we sleep this type of rules. But people who only fly once a year, they don't know. She didn't know she could bring goldfish for her kids. And I was like, yeah, you sure can.
Goldfish and Benadryl.
You can.
Part of the checklist.
You can bring snacks.
All right. Let's do the last one. We'll do a short one here. I think this one's kind of funny. It's going back to the student pilot situation. So this guy said, I had a student who had a weird last name that I noticed and recognized, but I didn't think anything further into it. This kid was 18, and his mom had been dropping him off for lessons, then picking him back up and waiting in the parking lot until we're done. One day, mom comes in to get her kid. Lo and behold, I was consistently banging his mom for about 3 years prior as a hookup. We locked eyes. My heart sank. Was here the weirdest thing to date that has happened.
Wait, that's hilarious. It sounds like,
by the way,
didn't know who the instructor
was. The kid
was.
doesn't know yet.
Oh, there's a more to the story?
That was it.
Oh, that's hilarious. So wait, so the mom didn't know who the instructor was till they locked eyes that day?
Yeah, because it seemed like the mom just waited in the parking lot.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Just wanted to end it with a little banger there.
Literally.
No pun intended.
Good story. Okay, well, thank you guys for tuning in to our very first episode. Stay tuned for more.
Thanks for flying with Captain John Doe. If you have a story to share, visit CaptainJohnDoe.com and stay anonymous. New episodes every Wednesday. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and tell your favorite crew members.